Next, this afternoon, one of London's councils has effectively been declared bankrupt. Croydon Council is in £1.5 billion worth of debt, and now emergency spending restrictions have been imposed with immediate effect. Let's get more from our political correspondent Carl Mercer and just talk us through this, because they've effectively declared themselves bankrupt.
Yeah, it's like running a household budget, essentially, and they're basically spending more money than they have, to the tune of something like £66 million this year alone, and they're saying there's no way that the council can balance its budget, which it is legally required to do. So they've issued something called a Section 114 notice, which is essentially saying we cannot make our books balance. And last time that was done in London was 20 years ago, when Hackney and Hillingdon did it. So you can see it's a very rare thing. But they have been warned about it for the last 3 years by their auditors. Their auditors, in their last reports, are mentioning a collective corporate blindness to the seriousness of the financial position, something the local Conservative MP certainly agreed with when we spoke to him this evening.
They recklessly spent more than they could afford. They ran the reserves down to almost zero. They ran up the biggest debt, £1.5 billion of any London borough, and ignored all the warnings. And unfortunately, the borough is now paying the price of Labour's reckless incompetence. I just hope that this situation can be remedied in a way that minimises the impact on residents of the borough.
What is this likely to mean for local people?
Yeah, I don't think they'll see an immediate change. That will come in a few weeks, but it does mean that the council can only spend on essential services, things like the bins, things like adult social care, things like child social care. But we have already seen, haven't we, earlier in the year, protests in Croydon over plans to cut 400 jobs. We saw protests outside the town hall. There are likely to be many more jobs to go and many more protests, I suspect.